Hello and welcome to the App Collective Mastermind. We are now 75% of our way through the sessions. This week, I make images for iPhone X, Nick draws mock-ups by hand, and we both discuss designing data models.
So, how are you doing this week?
Doing pretty good. Been in London for, a week now. It's been good. It's a little chilly and everything, so it's good for working. The Airbnb I'm in has like a really nice couch with a view of the high street. So it's like you can see that the world is existing outside, but you don't feel too guilty about being out there because you know it's chilly.
Right. So you kind of got like a little cafe set up only from the comfort of your own home.
Exactly. And I just the other day discovered there is a cafe that I can see from my window that has truly wonderful coffee that I'm trying to not remember every single day because I could literally walk across the street and get a coffee in under 2 minutes. And that will be of my budget.
Have you thought about setting up a zip line or something between you and the place, like some kind of little pulley system?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I just shoot the little tray down with 2 pounds in it or whatever. And they just I pull my Americano back up.
It's got to be done. It's got to be done.
I think so. I mean, at some future Nomad House or Airbnb hang or something, we definitely have to do this.
Yeah, exactly. Like a dumb coffee waiter kind of a thing. Yeah. Excellent.
Like a smart coffee waiter. If only you could get a drone that could hold that much weight, because I know they have the Amazon delivery drones, but I don't know if just guy walks into shop, buys drone. If you could get a drone that could hold a cup of coffee.
I saw a thing on, I don't know how old it was, but I was watching Casey Neistat YouTube videos, such as is what we do, and it was a Halloween one, so it might have been this year, and someone had sent him a drone that had a ghost hanging off it, so you could basically have this ghost flying around. So I guess a cup of coffee would be heavier than some kind of fake ghost costume, but it's kind of, it's ballpark, right?
Right. Well, also if it's the recycled paper cup, that's a lot lighter than a proper mug or anything. And as long as it's got the lid on it, you probably don't have to worry about it spilling, if it jostles a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. It sounds like you got it all worked out. This could be your new startup, coffee drones.
I swear it does. I'm sure there'll be some cafe in New Zealand that'll do this. I think there was a cafe in New Zealand I read about that serves all their food in pneumatic tubes, from the banks in the day.
We went, me and Jen went there. I don't think we had any food that came in a tube. Or maybe, I can't remember, but it was very cool. Yeah, it was very cool.
Damn it,
the whole place.
Because I didn't learn about that place till after Kit and I had left, and I was pretty jelly.
Yeah, it might not have been there when you were there, but yeah. So think about it, just assume that it wasn't and that you haven't missed anything because it didn't exist.
Exactly. That is the best way to think about it.
Yeah, exactly.
So how are you doing? How's everything over in Leamington?
It's good. It's very wet and grey today, but generally it is good. Yeah, my foot is getting better.
Excellent.
I've been feeling quite run down the last kind of week or so, feeling better the last few days, but before that, I decided to give up coffee, which I do every so often. And I went through all the pain of doing that. And then today, so I'd done it for 10 days. And then today I'm fuck this shit. Yeah, there you go. So I went through all the difficult bit. And so I don't know whether that was making me feel run down or it was other stuff, but I just had a few days where I was just I was trying to work, but nothing was really happening. The cogs weren't turning and stuff. So I'm feeling a lot better now. So that's all good.
Excellent. I think I used to, or actually I still get headaches pretty frequently when I fly. And I actually think I narrowed it down to usually I don't drink coffee on flying days because, you wake up, you're probably going to an airport earlier than later. And so you probably don't have access to all the good coffee you would normally get. And then you have like plain coffee. And I normally don't want to have to like pee right when I get on a plane. And so I realized though, I might be giving myself like slight caffeine withdrawal headaches. So now I actually try to make sure I drink coffee on flying days, just in case I'm, handicapping myself a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's always a good policy. I wouldn't have thought that you would have symptoms. I don't know. I wouldn't have had symptoms like a headache after like on one day, but everybody is different with this stuff, and so it's lack of water. I would have thought because you get
and it could be the lack of water too. But I read something online that the symptoms of caffeine withdrawal can showcase within 12 to 24 hours. Luckily, it is solved by just having more coffee. Easy problem to fix. But I always prided myself on like, I can drink coffee, wake up from it, but then I can also, drink a ton of coffee and then go right to sleep. So I was never really 100% certain the effects caffeine have on me, whether it's like placebo or really messes me up or whatnot. But I definitely know if I go off all caffeine for a while, it's a dark couple of days. So I do not envy the week you had.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So it was all good. It was worth doing it to prove to myself that I could do it, and then having sufficiently gone off it to know that I'm happy to go back on it. So
perfect.
There we go.
I love it.
All right.
Should we do this thing?
Yeah, should we do it? So this is week 9, right? So we've got 3 weeks left after this week.
Yep.
So yeah, the end is rapidly approaching. So yeah, let us start with the location independent alarm clock.
Yes.
Hit me with your news.
Okay, so alarm clock. Let's see, what did I do this week? So first off, I recently got a couple of like actual physical books. I think either last week on this podcast or afterwards, we talked a little bit about, do you ever, feel the need to get like a physical journal and draw? And so I did feel this need. And so I actually sketched out slightly better mock-ups this past week for the alarm clock. And that is in the Trello. So let me share real quick and I can showcase. Let's see, Safari, go. Like, luckily I have this really great app. I forget exactly what it's called like Scanner Pro or something like that. And it makes it super simple to scan any document in. And so I have the
same one, or probably the same one. It's like, probably. It's called Scanner Pro. It's super amazing.
Yep. I think that's it. It is amazing. So like this, I literally opened up the notebook and I'm like, snap photo, it was definitely shitty light. It was definitely at an angle. And yet this looks probably better than my actual pencil sketch. So yeah, I just wanted to show this real quick. So this is a maybe better visualization of the way I described the app last week with the actual map selection, the 1 or 2 pieces of configurable information. And then honestly, I had the iPhone alarm app open next to me and I was just sketch copying for the bottom screen. And so then I haven't gotten into any of the geofencing yet, but I've gone in and like done all the sexy step 1 stuff, like, built the app, connected like Google Analytics or not Google Analytics, Facebook Analytics, and like, done the plus button and started to define the color palette and stuff, but nothing that's, actually showable. Like it doesn't do anything quite yet. And I've done like, I was probably going to copy what I did in 7 and 7 in terms of picking a location. I'll probably do Mapbox because I basically have the code ready to go and I don't need to think about how to do it. But that's just to get a longitude and latitude. And then I will use Apple's built-in APIs for the actual, geofencing. So what I've done in the last week was what you see here. And if I cover up, the ability to save, that's more or less where the app is at. And then in this coming week, like I said, I will actually implement the geofencing, but I didn't really want to rush that because honestly, like I'm a step 1 person and I love doing that initial stuff anyway. So I was kind of relishing that and drawing and thinking about color schemes. And I've been trying to think about the name because right now I just have like location clock in iTunes, in Xcode. And like, it bugs me when I don't have a name. So I think that's going to be like a solid like afternoon just thinking of names.
Yeah, names are tough. Yeah, if I think of any, I'll let you know. I mean,
Excellent. Because yeah,
honestly, what I would do is like forget, or not what I would do, but I would consider forget branding and clever, like cool names, and just get the autocomplete stuff going on like on the app store, and see what's coming up, and then like I don't know, steal whatever seems to be, or like again in the ads stuff where create like an ad campaign and then just type in a bunch of words and see which words are most popular and just call your
yeah.
app whatever seems to has the highest bar in app search ads, because that's where how you'll find the people the easiest.
That's true. Yeah, I'll definitely use what we've learned in changing Piper into Cora to be more like, search focused in its titling and everything. So what I'll probably do is come up with a very short name that has nothing to do with anything, and it will be at the back. So it'll probably be like alarm clock location with app name or whatever the hell. But yeah, I think you're right. Like right now I'll just kind of operate on term based stuff, but I will let it marinate in the back of my head. So yeah, that's kind of where my week is with that so far. I mean, like I said, I've been playing around with the step one stuff, so nothing to really discuss. I don't have anything that's gone wrong yet. So it'll probably be mostly once I plug in the geofencing code in the next few days, and then like maybe set the geofence to like half a kilometer. And then I start going to cafes that are like a kilometer away and seeing how it works. And then I'll probably need to kind of discuss next week, like the results of how that worked out.
And so two things that I want to say there. So one is, I don't know whether you know, but in the simulator, you can test the location stuff in the simulator fairly well. So you can give, it has a few things built in, like, so you can do like a bike ride and a city drive and stuff like that. But you can also just say, I'm at this particular coordinate. And so obviously you do want to test it in real life as well, but you'll find the testing in real life is a real pain in the ass, in terms of like, it takes a long time to go and do one test. And then if it does or doesn't work, and also you can't run the debugger while you're doing that test. And so if the test fails, it's pretty hard to see what's gone wrong and stuff like that. So definitely harness the simulator to start with.
That's a good point, because what I was thinking of as well, I definitely knew about the location. I didn't know about the bike ride, because I was thinking like I would just like pick myself at a spot, and then I would set the geofence, and then I would change the location of the simulator to somewhere within that geofence and just check that the alarm triggers. And so you're right. That's probably the right way to do it, so that I am not wasting 40 minutes every test with no debugging information.
Yeah, and you will need to test it in real life as well. But I find this is one of the for my friend who I make the paddle logging tracking app. This is like one of the hardest things. You need to do it in the simulator because it's just so inefficient otherwise. But then you also need to test in real life just to give yourself confidence in the device and everything else. There you go.
Well, yeah. So what was the second thing?
And the second thing was, did you go plunge for storyboards, or did you stick with the quick and efficient way of going that?
Well, okay, so I started looking at storyboards and then I gave up.
Yeah, cool. I think that's perfectly good.
Yeah.
I just was interested.
But I think what I should do though is, since like I never want to have more than one complete unknown for myself in a new app, especially if it's a simple app. And the complete unknown for me in this is the geofencing API. So I think what I should do is I should build another app equally simple with the UI, base visual components, nothing sexy, and have the storyboard be the new thing. Even if it's just like a simple test app for myself or something, to, like you said, get comfortable with auto layout, applying constraints and things like that. Because yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. Like, it is a faster way to prototype when you want to like kind of get off the ground.
Yeah, well, it was. I was just interested to see what your experience was, but it definitely makes sense to just keep your Zorro circle, as I call it. So you're just doing one new
Mm,
thing at a time, nail that, and
yeah.
then get a bit
Yeah.
something
Well, because
else.
I was talking with Kit about this earlier today, in that something that actually keeps me out of doing more iPhone development more quickly is the fact that I actually kind of hate using Xcode. I
Right.
don't always find it as intuitive as I would want. Like, when I do web development, I have my whole suite of apps that give me kind of this perfect toolkit for building websites. And so I don't feel inhibited. Whereas I feel like in
Mm.
Xcode, I constantly feel like I either am using a tool that someone else created that doesn't really jive with how I like to build apps, or I'm kind of chafing against that and trying my best to DIY it myself while ignoring that. So I always sometimes feel like it's a little bit of a hostile IDE for me.
That's interesting. I don't know. I mean, there's definitely one third party IDE. I mean, which is supposed to be good, but I just never did it because you have to pay for it, and I just kind of
Yeah. Is that
um,
one NetBeans
maybe I
or
can't remember.
IntelliJ? I can't remember.
No, I can't remember either. They were sponsoring a conference that I went to, and I
Okay.
heard that people used it, and it looked like they had a lot of cool features and stuff like that. But I was just kind of like, I don't mind Xcode at all. And the other thing is, I bet you could get Sublime to do a lot, especially if you're not using storyboards or and
Huh.
stuff like that. Like, I don't know whether Sublime is what you use for web development, but Sublime you can get to do anything, and so
Yeah,
um,
that's a good point. I haven't used Sublime in a bunch of years actually, but like there is Xcode command line tools. So I do wonder if like I was using an IDE like Brackets and it had, Objective C and Swift code highlighting. If I could then command line compile and run my app, that would be kind of amazing because then I could just go into Xcode to submit it. And I'm not even
yeah,
sure you need Xcode to submit it because I think they have an app called like Application Loader that lets
yeah,
you
they
do that.
do.
I've just never used it.
So I mean, yeah, you'd probably want to do the one thing at a time thing again, and just like start with can I build and run, not in X, which you definitely can, as you say, and like even storyboards is a command line tool underneath to build those, um, but definitely for the code and all that stuff. But I've never tried that, but I'm pretty sure because also you can do the continuous integration stuff, right, where your builds run on a server and all that stuff. So you can.
Right.
Um, which is also something I've never done, but that I know is possible. So I don't know, maybe something to pooter with of an evening and see if you can get something
Yeah, because I mean,
up and
back in the
running.
day, I did so much of this with Flash and Flex and Java, where like you had whatever IDE you wanted to use, and then yeah, you could plug everything into different kind of like macros or command line actions, and so like you could like weave together this magical world that built stuff however you wanted. And so I guess like
Mm,
I'm trying my best not to be like a curmudgeonly old developer, like I don't
mm,
want to be like, well, I like it this way, and because I know that's the quickest way to invalidate myself. So I never want to like just say like fu Xcode. I just wish sometimes that it didn't do things in a way that I found abrasive. And I realize most of that is
mm,
just literally on me. Like if I built 10 apps with storyboards, I probably wouldn't have a problem with storyboards anymore.
Well, and the other frustrating thing with Xcode is like they kind of there used to be that kind of plugin architecture which meant you could do a lot of cool stuff. And then they kind of made all that invalid and introduced some new plugin architecture, which is basically
Mm-hmm.
useful for nothing. And so maybe next year they will open that up again, and then maybe it will become a lot more configurable,
Yeah.
and maybe that will make it
Yeah, it's true
fun.
because the Xcode, I forget what version we're at now, but like the Xcode I remember maybe from like 4 years ago, it felt different when it was all about the nibs or the zib files or whatever, and they're
Mm,
before storyboards basically. Like it felt a certain way, and it definitely like it feels different now, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it definitely means that like I'm always aware of my development environment when I'm building in Xcode. Whereas if I'm building a mobile responsive website, like I'm more interacting with the website kind of directly, if that makes sense. Like it's almost like having continuation integration when I'm doing web development, whereas when it's iOS development, I always feel like there is this in between layer, which kind of slows me down, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's a good thing to be aware of and to be thinking about trying to fix one way or another.
Yeah. But who knows? Maybe I've been thinking about this entirely backwards. And since I love designing apps and the step one, maybe I should embrace storyboards because, like, even though I love being pixel perfect in my apps, if storyboards let me basically go in and, you know, almost like sketch, like put my components in and set all the constraints and I'm not actually doing it in code, maybe that is like that magic sauce that would like make it feel a little more intuitive.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you could always try like one of the, I never know how to say his surname, Ray Winderlich. Have you seen those tutorials? Like, if you Google Ray, I always spell it wrong and Google knows what I mean. So like Ray Winderlich, if you look up him, or I can send you a link, and it's not him, but he has people who write tutorials and he has storyboard and auto layout tutorials. And then you could just go through a tutorial, like make an app with someone telling you what to do, and then you get a good idea of how it all works.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I should definitely do that. Well, like, I think I had mentioned at some point in the past where like the next two apps I wanted to build were this location app. And then at some point I want to build some version of like my mental financial app that I more or less do in spreadsheets and text documents. And that would be almost certainly just base components, you know, like offline on your phone, like well organized, but you know, nothing overly sexy. And that could be a really nice one to do with storyboards because, you know, if you have a wider iPhone, maybe stuff is on one line, and when it's a, you know, a smaller iOS device, it's stuff that truncates, and like it could be a really good use case since it would be like different densities of data.
Yeah, it's absolutely be good to check out. All right. And so
Right.
your goal for this week for this is to implement the geocaching stuff, geofencing, not caching.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
So
right.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. Nothing super fancy. Since I now have the bones in place, I shouldn't be distracted by all the shiny parts. You know, it could just be like plug in the basic geo stuff, test it in the simulator. Hopefully, like my goal is a week from now that I can walk to like the nearest like Costa or Pret and have a geo alert pop up before I get there. That's my goal.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. That's a good, well-defined goal. So
all right.
Yeah.
All right, let's flip to your first one, which is to get a whole buttload of subscribers in progress.
Yeah. So yeah, I haven't actually looked at what the actual total is this week, but probably not good. Not good. We talked about last week how I'd released some A/B tests that had really cut it right back. And so one of my goals for this week was to basically put the old image back in. And so that is done. And I did that for the iPhone 10. I can't even remember how I did it now. I was going to do a blur. I think that's what I did.
Right.
And then I've also added Facebook analytics in and removed my old analytics tracking.
Excellent.
And that version was released this morning. So that is good. So so I haven't really, I should go and check the Facebook analytics really, but I could see it working while I was testing. So assume that was all working.
What are your thoughts on plugging in the Facebook analytics since you hadn't done that in a while?
So the bit in Xcode was super easy. The kind of bit in Facebook I found quite frustrating, and I think it was worth because I wasn't starting from. I mean, I had a lot of things that made it hard for myself. Like I wasn't starting from scratch because I'd done this previously, and also I have two Facebook accounts, and then you have to have like a company account, and you have to have a page, and it felt like there was this web of like dependencies on the Facebook side, and then it was something like I had to have a primary page before I could create an account for the analytics. Like, there was just all this weird stuff. So like doing the stuff in Xcode took like 5 minutes, and then I just felt like I was back, and all the documentation is useless and
Yeah, I mentioned the documentation mine last week. That one, it's like it's all there, but you have to find the right one, or you're just going to be looking at shit for an hour.
Yeah, and so all in all, yeah, we'll see. And so this is the first time I've really plugged a lot of stuff into there. So it'd be interesting to
Cool.
see what kind of stuff I can get out and things like that. And then I'm looking
Yeah,
forward
I'll be
to.
interested to compare because I know for mine, I don't think I had to create a page or a business account. Like if I just go to like developers.facebook.com, I'm logged in as me, my regular, Nick Sneebly Facebook account, and I have all the apps I've created. And maybe it's
Right.
because I'm trying to
I think there
remember.
was something that I wanted to turn on that it said to do in the tutorial, which was like maybe it was custom events, or there was something that I wanted to turn
Mhm.
on that meant you had to have this thing.
That could be it.
So yeah, I'm not sure. So I mean, I kind of feel every time I do anything with this, I feel like I'm getting closer and closer to rolling my own kind of analytics solution. But
Hey, I will be the first one to adopt it after you. So
yeah, well, I realize that that's like something that is easy to say out loud, but probably hugely difficult to actually build to something that's useful or comparable to Google or something. But on the
what are
other
you
hand,
talking about? We can do that in one hackathon in a weekend.
yeah. Well, I like the idea of like, I just want to collect events, right? And then once you've got the events, it's then just running like an analysis on those
Uh-huh.
events. And so building the actual capturing of events should be relatively straightforward. There is some tricky stuff,
Yeah.
but then actually like tracking a user, which users go between, do most users go from this screen to that screen, and like all that kind of intelligence that you get for free with the other
Right.
ones. That would obviously be a lot more work. So
It's fair.
yeah, but then I don't know whether I need to know any of that stuff necessarily. Like, um, yeah, there we go. So
Yeah.
that
Nice.
was done, and that was good. And I'm looking forward to experimenting with the kind of like whatever it's called, the like looky likey advertising, with similar audience kind of stuff.
Nice.
So yeah. Then one of the other tasks I had on this was to move everything to a new server because of this thing that's hung over where I had my server was breached, and
Right.
it turned out that I'd forgotten to actually move everything over. I built a new server, and so that was one of the things that I was just like, I'm not going to do this while I'm feeling poorly because it's just a bad idea.
Yeah.
So I did do
Agreed.
some of the stuff, and like the stuff to do with the analytics I've done, like checking where that was referenced and stuff like that. But I have not done the shift over to a new server. And then when I was feeling better at the end of last week, I kind of had some other emergencies come up, and like, yeah, basically that is still to do.
That's fair.
But I've got a kind of good plan for what
It's
to.
also one of those tasks that's it's just so admin and plumbing, like it's not releasing a new feature. It's not fixing a critical bug that is destroying it. It's like just something that
Yeah.
you should do. And that makes it so boring.
Well, there's that. And there's also that I want to do it in the morning because if I do it, I like doing stuff like this in the morning so that I've got all day to find out, or if something goes wrong. Like if I do this in the afternoon, I don't want to find out, especially because of American time zones. Like most of my
Right.
customers are in the States. By the time I'm going to bed is like, I don't know, that's the busiest time in the States. And so I want to be really
Right.
confident by then that everything is going to work in America. And so I
That makes
prefer, like,
sense.
I always release my apps like first thing in the morning while I'm here, because then I've got like 12 hours before anyone's likely to actually use them. And then the few people that do use them, if there's suddenly loads of crashes or something, then I've got time to do something. So if I haven't done it in the
Nice.
morning, then it's not going to happen, till the next
No, that
time,
makes total
basically.
sense. I feel the same way when you're about to crack open something that could have like repercussions. Like you want to update, your MacBook or update like to iOS 11 on your apps or something like that. And like I did that for something, and it invalidated like so many plugins and APIs and stuff like that. And you're like, well, like crack in, like let's get some coffee going. This is going to take forever.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Cool.
then another thing, so I've really done quite badly on this one this week. And then the other thing I had to do was to do more A/B tests of the Sideways Woman which I did not do as well. So that is still to do next week. And then I've also set myself another task on this, which is basically the emails have been going out and they have a very high open rate, but the people who click a link rate is quite low. So, and it kind of seems weird to me that people are signing up for this mailing list to get, basically they join the mailing list to get a download, but then 14% of them actually download. And so
just so I understand, so you're in the app, the pop-up or display CTA comes up. They actually type in their email, hit go, get the email, open the email. And of the people who have opened that email, only 14% click download.
Do you know what? I don't think so. I think 14% of the people who have subscribed, but I'm not actually sure now you mention it, because it would be even worse. So
I feel like if you clicked your ad and then got the email and opened the email, I feel like the number of that like it should be almost the same. Like I'm just making up numbers here, but I'd like to think that would be over 80%, because you explicitly want it.
Yeah, I agree. And so there's an element of like, I don't know, it depends. For me, I would sign up and I would not see that email straight away because I don't have email on my phone. I don't have notifications for email.
Right.
But most people do have email on their phone and do have notifications. So you're right that it should be higher. So what I've done is I looked at the email that goes out and and there's like a few things. So basically I want to make it clearer that it's like, so at the moment, the title is "Glad You're Here," free download inside, and then the link to download says "Download your free ebook." But what I'm going to do is try changing it to "Download your free body measurement guide." Like, basically, make it more clear that this is the same thing that they've downloaded. So at the moment, I think we've done quite a nice email, but I just want to try making it more clear that it's related to that thing they signed up for in the app.
Right.
Because kind of looking at it with fresh eyes after a week, it kind of feels like maybe people don't realize that it's the same thing.
Right. That makes sense. Like, it's one thing if you clicked it in the app and then immediately switch over to your email client and get it. But like you said, what if even a day passes and you're like, wait, what's this?
Yeah. And especially if it's not clear. So so that is one of the other things to do. And I've worked out what I'm going to do for that. So that's just like text edit changes, basically.
Sure. Cool. Question. So this is all MailChimp, right?
Yes.
Do you have the ability / have you thought about, I'm assuming everyone's going into the One Progress mailing list, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. On the app, when someone, signs up via one of those CTAs and you subscribe them, can you add them to a custom group or a segment at that point? Because then you could have a campaign that's just for that group, and then you would know the open rate for that group.
Yeah, so I can't remember what the terminology is, but they go into a particular pot of people if they've signed up from the app, they go into a particular pot of people.
Okay.
And then they go onto this autoresponder chain, which is from that. So that is a campaign. The thing that they get, that email is a campaign, and my open rate is for that campaign, not for, I believe, you're asking me these questions.
Yeah. So that campaign, did that campaign exist prior to all this work in the app? Like, if you had gone to like a website and signed up to get this guide, would you have gotten the same campaign?
No. So we created the guide, and then from that we've added something to the website and something to the app, and there's a different pot for each one. And then if you join either, and then there's also like a MailChimp API trigger that triggers you joining the campaign. That is the kind of thing.
Right. But is there a single campaign that serves both of those pots, or are there two campaigns?
There's one campaign that serves both of those pots.
Gotcha.
But basically no one is signing up from the website at the moment.
Got you. Okay. So you can basically assume it may as well be a campaign exclusively for iOS signups.
As far as the stats, when I checked it last week, and that's what the stats were saying. So the open rates, so it must be for the campaign. So it says, maybe I'll just share my screen because I don't think this stuff is private or anything. So
yeah. all on what you feel comfortable sharing.
Uh, so this is the campaign for the
Yep.
onboarding series is MailChimp's title. They probably can
Okay.
change that, but that's what they give it because it's an onboarding series. And so I've got so this could be actually partly why the numbers are so low. So this is like the first one that comes, and then this is the second email, and so on. So the kind of click rates, everything's going down here. So maybe my 14%, that's probably an average across this whole thing. So this is the one where I'm saying, why isn't everyone opening this? But even so, it's 20%. And like you say, you would expect it to be, I joined the email list specifically to get this document. You would expect the vast majority
I'm
of
curious.
people.
Okay, so roughly half the people are opening the email, even though they literally asked to be sent the email.
Yeah.
Is the click rate of those who have opened it, or is the click rate kind of the whole pot?
I assumed it was of the whole pot, but now that you've
Right.
asked, I'm going to have to go and look it up. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I can ask Kit after this call, and she'll tell me in 5 seconds. But because I'd be curious, because if half the people open the email and a quarter of the people click, that basically means a quarter of your audience is clicking. But if only 23% of the 55% are clicking, that seems extraordinarily low.
yeah, it does. So we'll see. But I feel like I can
Cool.
I feel like I can make this. I can bring this up. So
Yeah.
like it
And
doesn't
you
show
know
you.
what I realized?
Like this should say measurement guide or something. Like it
Uh-huh.
should be this link here. It should be clear what you're getting, and then the subject should be better as well to make it more clear that it's tied to what.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah,
those
like your subject could be like, here's your free measurement guide, or here's the measurement guide you asked for.
exactly. It needs to have the word measurements guide in instead of like welcome to or something like that. So
Yeah.
yeah. So that's one of the things to do. It'd be interesting to see if I can
Cool.
get that number rate up.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that is So
Super
that
interesting.
is that for this week, and then it will be interesting to see. Hopefully, my conversion rate will go back up for to people subscribing now that there's this back to the sideways woman instead of the two failed tests. Yeah.
Cool.
So let's move back
So
to your target around your $10 a day in App
yes.
Store profit.
Yes. So last week we were talking about basically trying to chart and get any kind of knowledge around the wild analytics I've experienced over the past several months, and we basically ended with me going. I was going to dive into App Annie, and I have not a ton, but one, I already really like it because, like you said, I've plugged in my Apple developer account, I've connected my search ads account, and I haven't done these others yet, but it looks like I can add Google Analytics, iTunes Analytics, and it says Facebook, which I hope means the Facebook Analytics we've just discussed that I've also put in my app. And then it would be just super fascinating to see how it gives me visualizations for all of that data. So I've really only played around with kind of when you first sign up, and it has like some little tutorials and shows you some of the data, and you plug in a few things. And I looked up Piper and read through all the info it had for it, and like I already really like it. I wonder if it's even, I have to see what they offer when you upgrade to like a paying service, because I can see this being insanely valuable, if only as a dashboard to visualize all, like you said, all the things. It's one thing if you're just doing one thing, but since I'm doing so many different things, it's really cool.
It'd be interesting to see what you find. But last time I looked at it, actually, what you pay for is like ASO type stuff. So it's like it's like they used to have things like provide estimates of how much they think a given app would be earning, or
Right.
or like what keywords an app will be using. So basically, they sell your data to other people, or other people's data to you. So I don't think they actually offer. I could be wrong on that, but I don't think they offer any extra analytics.
Oh no, you're right. I just clicked upgrade in the interface, and most of it is around like future kind of ASO estimating, like you can broadcast or forecast how much you might be making if you make certain changes. And then it doesn't give you a price per month. It says request demo, which scares me.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah. So
All right,
and
so maybe free.
and so did you get the graph with your margin? Like, are you able to see what your
Hold on, let me go back through it because I don't remember all the language. So let's see. Graph with margin, linked ad data. Let us see. All right, view. Okay, so like for Piper, for example, it looks like I have linked ad campaign. So let's view the dashboard for it. And do you remember the, okay, so I'm looking at all sorts of graphs. Well, here, let me just, I don't think I need to be all private about sharing it. All right, can you see my Safari window?
Yeah.
All right, what was the thing you were talking about?
Okay. So yeah. So I remember asking him about this. So it doesn't show the margin here, but if you go to
Okay.
if you click your nick up in the top left, is it? There's somewhere where
Yeah.
you can look at everything for the. So if you click nick, so not the apps, but actually your whole account.
Like,
Nope,
would it
that's
be
not it.
downloads and revenue?
Yeah.
Although that has a lock icon on it.
Goodness.
Sneaky. I wonder
Click
if this is.
click at the A logo in the top left,
Yep.
and then do home.
Would it be
No,
revenue or?
try. Oh yeah, try revenue. But I think the overview one is the best.
Yeah.
But yeah, there you go. So
Let me,
this is your
oh,
revenue.
sorry, I already clicked. It's
That's
just a little
okay.
slow. Oh yeah, this is,
So there you
oh,
go.
gross
Gross
margin.
margin. Yeah. So this gives you your. So you've got revenue, spend, margin. So this is
This
saying
is
you're not
very
spending.
difficult to.
This is saying you're not spending anything,
Hmm.
or in
You
this
know,
time frame. So
I wonder, I only recently connected search ads, so I wonder if it hasn't
right,
fully plugged it in yet. All right, so I
could
might have
be.
to, it did say, let me go back to home. It did say when I was adding the account, you might have to give it a couple hours
Right.
to aggregate everything. So maybe I'll just need to come back to this in a few hours and see.
But that's the way to get to it is from when you get to the home page when you first log in, that you were just on it, and
Yeah,
then there's a
yeah,
blue box in the top left. You click that, and then that takes you to the
okay,
thing for everything. And in there,
okay,
they actually break everything down per app. But when you go in and
okay.
look per app, they don't show it for some reason.
Gotcha. So yeah, like this is clearly one of those things where, like I said, I feel like I have touched the surface of the surface here,
mm,
but thank you for the recommendation for it because this looks so much more viable than what I was getting in iTunes Connect.
right. Oh yeah. Well, especially once the whole idea of margin just at least doesn't exist in iTunes Connect. I don't know whether that's
Exactly.
because they haven't gotten around to it yet, or they don't want to show you that your ads aren't making any
Right.
money, or like
Right.
they
And that's
don't.
the thing. Like,
But
tell me, damn it. Because like I know how much I spend per week. I know roughly how much my apps make per week. So I can do, Nick math. But that's just
yeah,
assuming like you're assuming so many circumstances. You don't know if what you're doing is actually affecting it. Or maybe it's just that like an algorithm changed and your app was shown a little more often and it had nothing to do with your search ad at all.
yeah. So hopefully Apani will make that clearer, and that top
Yeah.
level screen definitely gives you that margin information in a place that I haven't seen
Yeah.
anywhere else.
Yeah. So really had a lot of fun with that so far. But so on that's just going to be ongoing. Last week we talked about kind of micro chunking out ASO, right? Like just
Mm,
trying to improve everything slightly as you go. And so I imagine I'll probably just throughout the week kind of peer through App Annie and see what resonates. But my tasks, I kind of slacked on the other ones, which were basically getting sprucing up my apps for the App Store with new screenshots and the videos, because I still haven't thought about how I want to do the video previews. I know I kind of want to copy what you've done, where it's kind of like the little magic walkthrough. And so I realized, like, it doesn't need to be super amazing. Like, it can be 20 seconds long. It can have, stock audio that I download for free. It just has to be. So
Yeah, I would say it's worth just trying to do something, and then you'll look at it in a year and think, good God, what was this? But still
what have I
better
done?
than not having it at
Exactly.
all. And then you can, it'd be quicker to make something better in a year. So
exactly. And, I always keep trying to tell myself, like, perfection is the enemy of the good. So, like, I've done, some basic analysis of my app stuff. I'll keep using App Annie. And then it's like, so in this next week, I want to generate those new screenshots, make some kind of preview video. I mean, I set the preview videos 2 weeks from now because I anticipate myself not hitting it in a week, but, I will try. And then I need to go through and decide which countries I want to swap out for the free ones. And then I actually wanted to ask your opinion. So I have right now as the free countries, the common ones: Spain, Mexico, France, I think Canada. And I can go and kind of pop those back into their packages, like Western Europe for Spain and France and stuff. Or what do you think about like a one-off most common package? Like, most of my packages are like 99 cents, and it's like, Western Europe or Southeast Asia, and you get like 7 to 10 countries that comprise that region. But I've cherry picked the best ones, and they aren't part of those packages now. And so I didn't want to necessarily like insert them into those packages and like destabilize the size, because I've kind of kept a relative size of package per cost, so that you're roughly paying about 12 cents per country. And I thought, like, so I wonder if I should just have like a most common and like pop all of those into a most common.
Yeah, I don't know. To me, that's less intuitive. So if I'm downloading a travel tipping app and I want, because really, if I'm like most people, so assuming that most of your customers are American, most people are going to be going to one place, right? So you've got like 10 days vacation a year. You're not going to be doing a tour of Europe. You're going to be going to Paris.
Exactly.
And coming back.
And that's actually how I designed the app and the in-app purchase structure. I'm really happy actually with overall doing it. I just feel like with more marketing knowledge on myself, I can monetize. I bet I can monetize this 4 to 5 times what I'm doing now, at least, without actually changing the app very much. Because the kind of thing is, like you said, you're going on holiday, one place. You should download the app and buy one in-app purchase. But the second you want to go to 2 places, or, heaven forbid, 3 places, now it just makes sense to get the world, which is like all of the countries. And so like, it's kind of like a very clear upsell, because most of my sales are Western Europe and Southeast Asia. And so I did regard that go ahead.
Here's a question for you. How much work would it be to make it per country instead of like per continent?
It wouldn't actually be that much work. I just feel like that would be too expensive per country.
Okay. So if you think about, I don't know, so the counter argument would be, you've got someone, they've got a new iPhone that probably costs them $1,500. They're going on like, $1,000 holiday. They're going to save, how much are they going to save by tipping 5% instead of 25%? Like, if you can save them hundreds of dollars, and if they give you $1 or $2, so the question is, does it feel to them like they're being overcharged? And I don't know, if you look at it from the perspective of they're going to one country, then probably they aren't going to care. So I don't know. I don't think, I know what you're saying, but equally they're going to save more in one trip to a restaurant than they're going to pay you for this information. So
that's not bad. And I actually do like the marketing angle of, spend $1 in this app, and even if you save money on one meal, the app was literally worth it. Or like if you were going to tip a taxi driver 10 euros, but you shouldn't tip at all, like the app has paid for itself in 15 seconds.
Yeah. And then the other thing is, say you make it, so you do individual countries, and then you can just have the same thing where you might as well buy the whole world. So it's like if you're going to buy 3 countries, you might as well buy the whole world, and you still give the whole world as an option.
I wonder actually, because like I said, I shared the knowledge where it's like, yeah, if you're going to go to more than one region, it kind of makes sense just to get the whole world. But if I did split it out by country, that makes it way more stark, where it's like, yeah, if you're going to go to just Thailand, buy Thailand. But if you're going to go to Thailand, France, and Germany, you really should just get the whole world. Like, I wonder if that would be an upsell to the world in a better way than I do it now.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's worth thinking about.
Well, shit.
Yeah. And the other thing that thinking about it that's worth thinking about is whether you want to try making it $2 instead of $1. And just because that, you can do that, no code changes, hopefully, assuming you pull the price from the App Store. You can just switch, see whether because probably your downloads will go down, but your IAPs will go down, but your money will go up. And obviously that's not going to be true if you set it to $100. No one's going to pay that, but $2, you might find you get more money just by doubling or taking it from tier 1 to tier 2 or whatever it is. And that's so easy to put back down. If it turns out nobody buys at $2, you can just turn it straight back down. So that's worth playing with as well.
Yeah. This is giving me some thinkings.
Yeah. Excellent. That's
all right. Well, crap. I'm broken now. So let's for the moment. Let us just say my tasks for the next week are like, without having a criteria, just play with App Annie. See what I see. And try to generate new screenshots and videos and stuff. And then if, I haven't completely decided to change the marketing structure of the app, I will swap out those free countries. But honestly, like I now kind of envision maybe having more of a deep dive in how it's structured. And then I might come back next week and be like, okay, I have 3 ideas, what should I do?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Good idea.
Well, I guess like right now I want to say thank you, but in 6 days I might be like, damn you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, let's find out.
But shit, no, you're right. You know what the other thing was? The app started out as just being restaurants and taxis. Because the whole point was like, I needed it for restaurants and taxis, and I needed to know hella fast. So that's all I cared about. Like at a glance, one screen, restaurant, taxi, go, go, go. And I needed all the countries because, we're nomads. We travel a lot. But you're right. If I'm targeting everyone else in the States and the UK and Canada and everything, it might make sense. Like if you were going to drop 99 cents on Southeast Asia, you're probably doing it to get Thailand. Like maybe the fact that Cambodia is in there is a boon, but what if that person had been willing to pay twice, one for Thailand, one for Cambodia, or shit, they're going to go all through Southeast Asia. So they may as well get the world.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Like you're right. I would almost like make up my own fact here where I would maybe say that the number of people that might buy might go down ever so slightly, but the people that were already going to buy would almost certainly spend more then.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Lots to ponder.
Yeah, and then the other good thing then is if you get more money, if you're kind of average, whatever the term is, if at the moment you make 10 cents per download, if that became 50 cents per download, then you can spend more money on advertising because,
that's true.
Then
because you're right. Like you can either play a numbers game or a quality game, right? Like increase the number of people that convert from download to purchase, or if you have a decent, like you said, 20 cents per download, just increase the number of downloads. Yeah.
As long as you're making a profit.
As long as you're making a profit, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. Well, okay. That is awesome. I'll try to put a mental pin in all of that. And let's move on to your second one, which is your tip jar.
Yeah, all right. So my goal was to do the preloading of the prices that we talked
Yes.
about. And so I did all of this a while ago, and I've marked it as done. So let's assume that I've done it.
Sounds
So
good.
that all, yeah, I did. So I refactored it a little bit so you can make a call in the app delegate, and then if you
Great.
do manage to hit the screen before it's loaded the prices, then it just waits. It still shows at that point. It shows the loading thing, but like we
Cool.
said before,
Oh,
most
actually,
people should hit
do you
it.
know what this reminded me of? Okay, so to pull a little iPhone 10 in here, I've been watching some of the getting started tutorials for the phone,
Oh
and
yeah.
they have the whole slide to unlock, right? So instead of pressing the home button, you like slide from the bottom, and the whole way it works is like the face unlock is behind the scenes, right? So like
Mm,
you'll have a little lock icon at the top, and the second you hold the phone up and it unlocks the little lock. And so the way it's supposed to work on the video was you hold up the phone and you can just naturally slide. But you could hold up the phone, wait for the lock to unlock and slide. But it's not really a race condition because, if you just slide, it'll unlock in that, 100
yeah.
milliseconds or whatever. But it's a lot like what we were talking about with the App Store price. Like you can prefetch the price. And then if the store page gets shown, even if it needs an extra second, it's still kind of on its way to getting the information. So it's still going to be faster. And I kind of liked that
Yeah.
Apple is kind of employing the same kind of algorithmic logic that we were talking about for your tip jar.
Yeah. That's cool. It's a good point. Yeah. So it's good. So I'm happy with that. That's all done. And then
Nice.
goals for next week. I think maybe this is too short, but I'm going to just think about. So originally this was going to go in world time, but for now,
Uh-huh.
I'm going to start with putting this in progress. And so goal for next week
Cool.
is to do some mock-ups or think about from a user experience point of view, how can I prompt for a tip without
Right.
kind of find that balance that we talked about a lot before between being an annoying bad person and making people give me tips.
Right.
So that is my
And I guess you also want to make sure you don't step on your own toes with your body measurement guide too.
exactly. So yeah, so it's just to think about what the options are and what would be the best way. And because then just dropping the tip jar in should be straightforward. So it's just where that goes, and then what if any logic there is behind when to ask about it, or whether it's just a menu
Right.
item somewhere or whatever.
Oh, I'm really excited about this code because I forget, were you definitely going to make it a CocoaPod?
I haven't decided yet. So this is at the
Okay.
moment it's a standalone workspace. So it's a
Right.
standalone project, and and so I've got like a project which is the kind of the demo app, and then I've got a
Right.
project which is the project, the tip jar. And originally it was going to
Uh-huh.
be a CocoaPod, but I was struggling with something, I can't remember what it was, and I just basically, it's like I got to keep moving forward with this, and so I gave up on it.
That's fair.
So I
Is
think
it one of the things where if you didn't do a pod, is it something where you could share the workspace? Like if I want to put this in my apps, can you like share that workspace and then I can use it in my apps?
yeah, so I will make it one way or so I guess it'll be one of the things that comes out of actually fitting it into a different app other than this one, will be like how that will show how reusable is this, what kind
Right.
of configuration options do there need to be, and then what's the best way of sharing it. And so probably I won't make this a CocoaPod to start with, but we'll see. That
Right.
might be a goal by the end of the thing, but like not next week. So
Sure.
that will be the kind of nice to have thing at the end.
Well, I can also always dummy test it too, because like, sure, you could throw your tip jar in like Nomad Tracker or something like that to test out a different configuration. But if I threw it in one of my apps, I might want configuration variables that you didn't think about or didn't need. And so it could be a
Yeah.
nice way to just like A/B test your own widget without actually having to do the work.
Yeah, well, that would be great as well. So that's all the stuff that needs to be done. I mean, just to make it so I can use it in my own apps, it will
Sure.
need to be more centralized properly. So,
Cool.
but yeah, I'd be happy for you to use it and see what you think as well. That would be there's
Yeah.
something
Well,
pleasing about having a tipping app with a tip jar in it, I think. So you can say, the average American tips their app developer whatever it is.
I love it.
Yeah.
You know, it would be really funny actually. So I have a tip calculator in the app and it works for each section, so if you're at a restaurant in Portugal and you need to figure out the tip, you can, fire it up, no need to do math, but then that would be the perfect place to tip, to mention it, because like, okay, so, in the States you tip 20%, right? I don't know what it is in Portugal because I'm not looking at my app right now, but let's say for argument's sake, it's 5%. So you type in the amount, like 40 euros for dinner, and it tells you like how much you should tip. I can then do the difference and I can be like, oh, hey, were you going to tip, 11 euros? How about you toss one of those euros my way? And like, the button is like legit right there.
Yeah, well, that's true. It's a really good idea. Yeah, really good idea. Cool.
Well, we can mark that one for the future then.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So, and then, that's all good. So, Patreons on the Patreon. Patrons on the Patreon.
Patrons on the Patreon. So this is the best one of the week for me. So last week I had talked about basically doing personal outreach, and so that's what I did for the past week. I went through and looked at kind of everyone that went to the 7 and 7 Nomad House and was at the conference, and kind of that, trying to remember all the people I had conversations with about the App Collective, and not just like, didn't want to just spam my Facebook friends, although I'm not opposed to it. And so I reached out explicitly to, hold on, I have my little notes. I reached out explicitly to 10 different people that I had talked with about the Patreon, and kind of did good social engineering. Like I wrote to them, I asked about something relevant to their lives at that moment. And then, basically just did a little pitch. And I was like, hey, like I do this thing. I think I may have mentioned it at the Nomad House, and it would be awesome if you could support me at $1. Like $1 is really all I need. And if in a month you don't like it or don't want to support me anymore, cancel, and I will not take it personally. And, trying to be like low bar, just $1. And that was actually fairly effective, especially for a couple of friends where if they had a product or a service, I went beforehand and subscribed to it or bought their book, or, because it's not like a one-way street. Like I want to support other developers and creatives and nomads in the same way that I want to be supported. So like, I am happy to put my money where my mouth is there. So out of those 10 people, I already have 2 new backers and
Excellent.
2 more that said, yep, I will definitely do this. And they just haven't yet. And, don't want to be pushy because, if you don't have a Patreon account yet, you have to create the account, hook up a credit card or whatever. Like I don't even remember. So don't want to be a dick about that. And then I'm still waiting to hear back from the other half, but no one who I've reached out to and has responded to me has said no.
Cool. Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah.
Well done. So I reckon it's worth
So
following up this week with the people who said they would, but haven't done it. And then, like you say, finding like a nice way to do it. But if they said they will, then you can find a way to just ask them about something else. Just reply to the email.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And so if all the people who said, hold on, let me pop open the Patreon right now, so I'm not just making up facts. But if everyone who has responded and says they will back it, I will be at I think 17 or 18 of the 20. And of the people who haven't responded yet, if half of them, or maybe even 40% of them also agree to back, I will have reached the goal.
Right. Nice. Oh, well done.
Thank you. So pretty happy with that overall.
Yeah. Excellent.
And then, Mastermind 2018, we can figure out what's next, how to go from like 20 to 200, like you had mentioned on the pod a million years ago.
Cool.
So I guess that actually gives me my next week, right? Like, so did all that this past week. What's for next week is following up with all the people who haven't responded yet.
Yeah. And the people who have, but haven't done it.
And yeah, hopefully that's a non-issue, but yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So pretty easy and straightforward there. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, that sounds good. So let's go to the last one, which is the Nomad Tracker.
Yeah, all right. So I had 2 tasks for this week.
Right.
So
Algorithms.
yeah, algorithms. So I sat and did that this morning. So I haven't done anything in code yet, but I did a lot on paper. So I wanted to talk. It would have been better to get something more helpful to show through, but I haven't got anything
All good.
visual to show, but I have thought through it. So I'll try and, I don't want to go into all the detail, but just to try and explain the concept that I've come up with to see, talking it out loud, whether that makes sense and makes sense to a second person as well. So originally I had the idea I had was basically 3 tables. So one table was going to be the just raw location data. And so just every time your location updates, you just take a note of the date and time and your new coordinates. And then on top of that, I was going to have 2 kind of tables, which were, whatever the word is, like high level extrapolated tables. So one was, I was in this city between this date, and like cities. So I was in this city between this date and this date, this city and between this date and this date, and so on. And then the same for countries. And then kind of trying to think through how that is going to work, I've concluded that I think the best way would be to have another kind of table which is in between those. So we'll just work out for every day, work out which city and country you were in. So, for today, I was in Lamington, UK. For tomorrow, I'm in Chiang Mai, Thailand. Day after, Chiang Mai, Thailand, and so on. And then I can just update that day by day. And then the kind of the table for country and city, you can probably always do that in real time. But even if you don't, like, it's very quick. That logic is so much easier rather than trying to work out what's a trip from the raw data.
Right.
That kind of
So, okay, question. So the raw data obviously makes sense. That's just everything you're collecting. So the one with cities, is it the same number of rows? So like for the entire set of raw data, like say you have 100 data points, does that mean in the cities one there was 100 data points and it's just the city that you were in at each of those data points, and the same for the country?
No, so it will be, if I bring up so I do have the data model as it is, I can bring it up and it'll maybe explain it a little bit better.
Well, because I actually was thinking about this. Yeah. Like if you say it was that, right, just for argument's sake, like, table 1, raw data, table 2, same number of rows, but just cities, and then table 3, same number of rows, but just country, you could very easily be like, yep, you were definitely in Spain today, or you were definitely you were in 5 Chiang Mai's and 2 Bangkoks today, so it's Chiang Mai.
Let me see if I can quickly do this.
Yeah, do it. I was also wondering if there is kind of diagnostic data on the iPhone that you could save in the raw data. Like, would it be at all valuable to know when you save that data point of the location, could you also save the battery? What about the screen brightness? What about are they on Wi-Fi or cellular? What's the cell signal? Like, would any of that data be useful?
Yeah, I don't know. That is interesting to think about. Right, I'm gonna. Oh, there we go. Add attribute. So it would just be date.
Yeah.
Coordinates. City. And.
What are you editing in?
Xcode. Sorry, I'll bring.
Oh, gotcha.
I've never done this way before, but I've always done it after the fact. City, country, date, coordinates. So now I can share this. Share screen. So this is easier to talk through. So this table is raw. It's just the raw data.
Got it.
And so this is already in place and everything is working for this already.
Okay, great.
And so then for these 2, you've got like the country you're in and the start date and end date. So I've put a
Okay.
timestamp in here, but really this should be day or date. This isn't going to be a timestamp. I'm not going to say at 11:59 you're in, or 11 a.m. you're here, 11:01 a.m. you're somewhere else.
Well, question, would it can you have references to the location table in the other tables? Because it could be like start location, end location, and it could be a reference to a row in the location table that's just the first time they appear in that country and the last time they appear in that country.
Yeah, that's true. That's something to think about.
So you're not duplicating data. Like a trip to country has two instances of the location in it.
Yeah, I think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll think about that. And then so for what I've got so far, the other thing is basically the same thing, only at the city level. So that's at the country level. This is at the city level. And then, so working this out from this is possible, but the more I thought about it, the more it seems very complicated.
Right.
But if I have this kind of intermediate, so really this would be here. So there's no
I see.
relationship between them. But basically,
Okay.
each day you say, where was I last on this day? And then you look up, you get the country and city. And then these are just like a for each on this table, like,
right.
So you just loop through this whole table and then you can say, okay.
Oh,
and as soon
see.
As soon as the city changes, you know that you've got a new trip in the city. And as soon as the country changes, you know you've got a new trip to a new country.
Right. Okay, that's actually really clever. And then that kind of takes care of that. What would the coordinates be in the location on day?
So the idea for that would just be the last one. And the idea was, I don't think it would actually happen, but the idea was that if you were in the same location, exact same coordinates 2 days in a row, then you wouldn't have to make a call to. So when you've got a location, you've got to say, you've got to ask a server, you've got to say, oh, I'm at 123, 123, like latitude, longitude. What is the city and country for that? And so it could be that this is just a crude caching mechanism. So if I say 123, 123 is London, UK, then next time, if I happen to be at 123, 123 again, I don't have to go to the server. I can just come here and look it up. So I think the chances of that ever happening are very slim, but it's trivial to implement. And so I might as well do it.
May as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And originally I was going to have something like, if you're within some distance of your previous thing, then don't bother going to the server and just do it. But I think for the UK at least, like the town where I live, and for London as well, but for the town where I live and the next town over, you don't cross countryside to get from one to the other. And you can literally you can walk 5 meters and you're in a different city or a different town. Right. And so I figure you always have to go to the server to ask whether you're in the same town or not, even though
that makes sense.
Yeah, and that would be true. I don't know. It's funny. It's a weird thing to think about, but I just think for the cost of one extra server call, I think that's going too far to try and do anything clever with that.
It really seems like something the server would implement, like client-side caching. Like if you've already asked for a set of coordinates that lead to a city, it should say like, hey, don't, let's not waste time. Like if I already know what city you're in, I should just tell you.
I mean, when I was sitting in a cafe working all this out, and I thought it'd be interesting to look at if there's any pods. As far as I know, the Apple stuff doesn't do this. But I thought it would be interesting to look to see whether anyone's done a wrapper around this. But I figure this amounts to the same thing. Like it's so easy just to whack these coordinates in here, and then to whack the coordinates in here, and then just look up exactly that. And that's trivial. And then the other thing I was thinking about was when to do this stuff. And what I think I want to do is do it. So I assume that this is possible from everything I know, but I am going to have to code it up and test. But what I want to do is basically set this step to be a background task, which will run kind of ad hoc periodically, however that works. I understand that iOS controls this, but I don't know what parameters you
Right.
can give it. But anyway, I want it to be so that it will run whenever it runs it, and then it will only do the network stuff if you're on Wi-Fi and plugged into the wall.
Okay.
Basically the same as, so it will run, and then I will say, no, don't, if there's no network and no battery, I'll just say, no, I don't, forget about this.
Right.
And then I'll also keep a check of when I've last done this and just go back and, you know, that kind of thing. So that makes it sound complicated, but I don't think that it is. I've kind of got it written out as pseudocode and stuff.
I wonder if you could even just set it up, a perfectly viable background task is when a location changes. And so like
Yeah.
when a location changes, you'd be tracking it in your location table anyways. And then it might make sense. That's when you kind of run those background tasks for all the other bits.
That's what I thought about to start with. But if I want it to be only when you're on Wi-Fi, then
Right.
probably that is never gonna, you're probably not going to be on Wi-Fi when you change location.
Thing is though, like being practical, is that really a big deal? Like at the end of the day? Because I mean, we're not talking about massive data upload downloads here. Like you're querying a server for coordinate-based information and saving some data. Like, aren't we talking kilobytes here?
Probably. So yeah, but it depends. If you do it, if you're on a train, so it depends. So
Right.
you could bake it in and like not check, only do that check once a day.
Right.
And also there's a good chance that people won't have data when they're moving location.
True.
So I kind of want to look into this. To me, this feels like the best thing. So I want my key kind of foundational things of this to be 0 battery life and like
Right.
100% privacy. And so those are my like guiding
Got it.
things.
Got it.
And so if it's possible to do it the way that I'm saying, to do it as a background activity, and then when the background activity runs, it will only run if it's been more than 24 hours and if it's if you're on Wi-Fi and battery.
Okay.
Wi-Fi and
Devil's advocate, stupid question. Okay. I basically agree with all the things you're saying. What about a completely different alternative where, so the location table where you just track the raw data, you do that, you're already doing that, great. What if you only do the other stuff with user interaction? Like there's literally a button in Nomad Tracker that just says update where I've been. And then you literally just run it all right then.
I thought about that, and I could do that.
Like that's kind of like dumb. That's like dummy mode, right? Like you don't do anything intelligent. You're really stupid, and you just do it when the user asks, and then you update everything.
Yeah, and maybe that would work. So that is basically it's sort of what I've done, where I've done this stuff before, or stuff similar to this, like in the geo tagging app. That does it. The user doesn't click a button, but when they look at a table where it's listing this information, at that point it goes and looks it up. So maybe that would be a better thing to do the first time round, but then it feels more clunky. It's like if they're not on Wi-Fi,
right?
I don't know. That's
well, you could always do
think
something
about it,
simple
because that
too.
should be the first thing. I think maybe you're right. That should be the first thing. Is like, I guess the thing is, it depends. So if they're using it, if they haven't used it, it depends how often they look at the app. Basically, if they look at the app every day or every week, then that is probably good. If they don't look at it for a month or 6 months, then you might find that you've got to go and that it takes, and you're on some slow network connection when you go and look at it. That might feel like it takes a long time to update. But probably for an initial version, it should probably just do it. Yeah.
Right. And like worst case, you know how many rows that you have to parse through? Like, you could literally just have a thing that says, great, doing it now. I have 84 rows to check out. I have 82 rows to check out. I have 70 rows to check out. And so like they'll know if it's going to take a while.
Yeah, that's true. I have this, it's easy to show progress on that.
Yeah. Like not time progress, obviously, but task based. So it's just like, hey, you haven't done this in a long time. And you can even say, hey, this, like if it's more than say like 100 or something like that. You could say this might take a minute.
Yeah, that's true. That's probably a good idea. So for at least for phase one, nothing in the
Yeah.
background, and then it just happens when the user is there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good idea.
Well, because also then it's hopefully less work for you. You don't have to execute all these background tasks, and it is more battery conscious because then the app really isn't using battery unless the user is interacting with the app, and it's not even making like any explicit network calls then unless the user says do this because I want it.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely true. And so, yeah, that's what I'll do. And then if I want to wrap it up and call it in the background, then I can just put that on top of it
Exactly.
either way.
And you can keep that in mind too. Like when you build like the button to execute this, you can design it in such a way that like in the future, if you did want to wrap it into a background activity, you wouldn't have to like rip out all the code and start over. Hopefully you could reuse a large portion of what you write now.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. If I keep that in mind. And then from a, not a sneaky perspective, but from a looking at it from the battery use point of view, then it will show battery use, 3% time on screen, 10 minutes. Whereas if it runs in the
Right.
background and you look at battery use, it says
That's
3%
true.
time in background, 20 minutes or whatever. Whereas at the moment, there's
Right.
0 time in the background because all this, right, getting the location right into the database is just like it just is.
Yeah, you're right. So actually, like that might even support the mission of the app even more because yeah, it'll be like, oh,
Yeah,
seriously, the only time I'm using cycles are when you're looking at me.
yeah, yeah. That's true. That's a good idea. Definitely a good way to start. Um, so yeah, I'll do that. Leave it in the user control. Yeah, cool,
Awesome.
excellent. Thank you.
Of
I don't,
course.
I don't know how to save these, or even if you can save. Like,
Yeah, honestly, I've never even looked at the screen. I've never been in the screen that you are currently in.
yeah. So normally you see like this.
Ah,
Uh, yeah. So and I've used this, and then you can use this to generate classes. Um, but I've never this one I've just created in here, like in
right.
that. Yeah, but I opened this up and
Yeah.
changed it earlier today, and it every time I open it up, it piles these boxes on top of each other.
Uh,
Um, so
do you like using this more than like a mine node?
uh, it's- for this, yeah, for
Yeah.
basically for like whatever these models are called, I forget now, like ORM type things. Like yeah, I
Right.
would use this. I would do this on paper normally, and then
Right.
bring it in here. I wouldn't use MindNode for this, I
That's
don't think.
fair. Yeah, because it's all about you're reflecting a database, right? You're showing relationships, and so there's a lot of if you did a mine node, there'd be a lot of arrows back on things.
Yeah, if the only thing I would use other than this would be like I've got a tool called Wired,
Uh huh.
which is like just a diagram tool, and then that has like kind of these different models, and you can make these kind of diagrams in whatever it's got boxes, so you can do all like the kind of shapes, so that you can do all this
Right.
as it should be. And it's kind of a weird, and it's an open source kind of clunky, but it's free and it works, and it's a kind of an
Gotcha.
acquired taste, but once you acquire it, it's nice, and it does like cool stuff where you can say where it can do all the layout stuff for you, so you can dump all the tables in and create the relationships, and then you say create me a hierarchical view of this, and it lays everything out like really neatly.
Ah,
Or you can do like
that's
create
cool.
like an organic view, and it does everything in a circle and stuff. It's quite neat if you've got something complicated, but
Nice.
yeah, yeah. So there we go. Yeah,
Solid.
yeah,
All right. So
indeed.
that means next week we'll be moving on the thing you just said.
Yeah, so I need a new task for that. But so next week will be build the algorithm.
Right.
I can never spell algorithm. I'll have to come back in there. Yeah, so that is that one. So that is to be done next week. So hopefully, yeah, by next
Nice.
week I can have something that runs. One of the things I was going to do was look at unit testing and think about unit testing this, and that is not
Right.
something that I have done this week, but I should
That's
do
fair.
really.
I mean, we all should.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It feels like this is so well suited to it because it will be hard to do this stuff in real time, as we were saying before. And then,
Right.
yeah, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be good to define those tests, even if I don't.
Well, especially kind of easy to find edge cases, right? Because we can literally just pick out regular life circumstances, like when we switch countries or do visa runs, or you go visit someone for the day or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And then hopefully I could ask people to send me their data for their real life cases, and then I can
Yeah.
plug it in and then use it as a test case after that. So, yeah, should do it really,
Nice.
but we'll
We'll see.
Yeah, exactly. That for
Yeah.
me is like one of those things where I'm 100% convinced it's a good idea now, but whenever I go and look at it, I kind of always, yeah, kind of
Well,
start.
because it's one of those things where,
It
like
feels
you said, we're both
unproductive doing that.
we're both 100% sure it would be good and it would make a better product. But if it's, say, an extra 50 hours of work total, do you need that extra 10%? Or can you just have a 90% app that has no unit testing? And yes, it's less good, but you're also moving at a faster pace.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. So we'll see. I'll look at it, and for this, because this is a particularly strong case for it, I think.
Right,
So,
right.
um, yeah, we'll see. So maybe I should have it as a
Nice.
separate card this time. So research unit testing for this. Yeah, and then the other thing I had to do, which I have also failed, is getting my extra beta testers on. And even though that was a trivial
Right.
thing, it has not come to the top of the pile for silly reasons or no reason.
Yeah, but at least it's a nice task, right? Because then it's just
Yeah,
like reach out to a couple of people, not no coding, humans only.
yeah, exactly. I think, to be honest, I find coding easier than humans. That's probably why I haven't done it. But there you go.
Fair enough.
All right, I will, and then it will be done.
Nice.
Yeah,
Good, good,
yeah.
good. All right, I
So
think we're looking pretty good here. We're 9 weeks in, right? So this was 75%.
yeah, yeah, that's it. So the finish line approaches.
Hmm.
Um,
I am confident on 2 of my 3. I'm almost 100% confident that I will have my location alarm clock built and that I will have 20 Patreon backers. I'm less confident on the App Store revenue goal, but I am confident that it will be a good deal better than when we started this.
yeah, excellent. Well, yeah, we will find out in a few weeks and over the coming
Dun,
week.
dun, dun.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Nice.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, I will see you next week to discuss further.
Excellent. Can't wait to see how all our stuff develops.
All right.
All right. Later.
I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. If you did, then please give us a like or a subscribe below and let us know what you think in the comments. And we'll see you next week.